the hidden manipulation tactics, how men are being controlled in modern relationships. In today's world, relationships are no longer just about connection and love. They are a complex web of psychological, emotional, and social dynamics. While there are countless narratives surrounding the modern man, strong, independent, and in control, many men are struggling with the intricate and often unseen forces that shape their relationships, particularly with women. These forces are not necessarily physical, rather they are deeply psychological, emotional, and social. Men today are facing manipulation in a way that is far subtler than ever before. Gone are the days of overt control, where power dynamics were easy to spot. Instead, modern-day manipulation is far more insidious, hidden within social expectations, online interactions, and shifting gender roles. What makes this even more complex is that many men don't realize they are being manipulated until they have already lost control of their emotions, their identity, or even their financial stability. In this video, we will explore how men are being manipulated in modern relationships, how society is setting them up for emotional dependency, and how men can break free from these manipulative cycles. It's time to look beyond the surface and uncover the psychological tactics that are silently controlling men today. As we begin to unravel the emotional manipulation that takes place in modern relationships, one of the most profound forces at play is the desire for validation. Men are conditioned from a young age to seek approval from others, especially from women. This desire for approval is intertwined with the fundamental human need for affirmation, recognition, and love. But when this need is constantly manipulated, it can lead to emotional vulnerability that is exploited, often without the man realizing it. From the time men enter the dating world, society teaches them that their worth is linked to their ability to attract and secure the attention of women. This messaging is embedded in everything from advertisements and movies to peer interactions. A man's social status, career success, and even his physical appearance are often viewed through the lens of whether they will attract women's approval. Women, in turn, can use this need for validation to subtly control men. This often manifests in the form of breadcrumbing, a tactic where women offer just enough attention or affection to keep a man interested, without giving him the full emotional commitment he craves. The attention is intermittent, almost unpredictable, and creates an emotional roller coaster. In a breadcrumbing scenario, a woman might show kindness or flirtation one day, only to pull away the next, leaving the man in emotional limbo, constantly chasing after that next bit of validation. While breadcrumbing might seem like harmless flirtation, it actually plays a dangerous psychological game. For a man who is emotionally invested, each small piece of affection feels like a prize, and he will often go to great lengths to earn it. This manipulation creates a sense of dependency in the man, where his emotional state is contingent on whether the woman chooses to engage with him. Additionally, attention-seeking behaviors often play a role in this manipulation. For example, a woman might purposely act distant or cold, expecting the man to pursue her more intensely. She is not interested in an authentic connection, but rather in maintaining control over the dynamic. Men are taught to believe that pursuing women and fighting for their attention is a mark of masculinity. But when this behavior is manipulated, it serves to control the man's emotional state rather than build a healthy, balanced relationship. The impact of this emotional manipulation is far-reaching. Over time, the man begins to feel as though he is never enough. His self-worth becomes tied to the woman's validation, and this cycle can lead to deeper emotional dependence. The more the man chases the validation, the more entrenched he becomes in the dynamic, making it even harder to break free from the emotional manipulation. When validation is consistently withheld, men can begin to feel worthless or inadequate. They may start to believe that they are not worthy of love or affection unless they meet certain standards or perform certain actions. The longer the cycle of breadcrumbing continues, the more emotionally dependent the man becomes on the woman. His happiness is tied to her approval, and he loses the ability to derive happiness from within himself. The emotional unpredictability caused by these tactics creates anxiety in the man, leading him to constantly seek approval or reassurance, which, over time, can erode his mental and emotional well-being. With the rise of social media, dating apps, and the digital age, modern relationships have taken on a new layer of complexity. The traditional avenues of dating have been replaced by quick swipes, messages, and pictures, creating an environment where validation is more easily given but also more easily withdrawn. Social media platforms such as Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook now serve as tools for emotional control, especially in the context of dating. Women are often able to harness the power of social media validation in ways that subtly manipulate men. Each post, photo, or status update becomes an opportunity to gain attention and measure how much value they hold in the eyes of their followers. Women who receive significant attention on these platforms often become aware of their power to control men's emotional responses. Men, in turn, are conditioned to view this validation as a reflection of their worth. Every like, comment, or reaction to a woman's post serves as a form of social proof, signaling to the man that he is either worthy of attention or excluded from the emotional circle. When a man's interaction with a woman on social media is met with warmth and engagement, he feels affirmed and appreciated. However, when he is met with indifference or silence, he may feel rejected and emotionally destabilized. This reliance on external validation becomes a dangerous cycle. A man might start to believe that his social value is tied to how women respond to him online. This can lead to extreme behaviors such as overpouting, excessive messaging, or self-comparisons with other men who seem to be more successful in securing women's attention. Over time, men become addicted to the social media high that comes from validation, which is transient and often fleeting. Dating apps such as Tinder, Bumble, or Hinge have introduced a new form of emotional manipulation that centers around instant gratification and external validation. These platforms create a competitive atmosphere where men are constantly seeking to win attention and approval from women. The swipe left, swipe right culture gives women the ultimate power over the interaction. They decide whether the man is worthy of further attention. Men are often placed in a vulnerable position, where their worth is boiled down to a brief profile and a few photos. Women on dating apps have the option to be selective and are often approached by multiple men at once. The man, therefore, is left to compete for her attention, feeling like he must prove his value quickly and efficiently. The manipulation comes in when the woman uses her ability to select or ignore based not on a genuine connection, but on a superficial attraction to the man's appearance or bio. This creates a false sense of competition, where men feel pressured to constantly impress and perform. The dating app culture encourages a constant cycle of emotional highs and lows for men. Matches, messages, and early-stage interactions bring excitement, but these feelings are fleeting. The woman might engage with the man one day only to ghost him the next, leaving him uncertain about his standing in the relationship. This ghosting tactic is especially manipulative because it plays on the man's desire for validation, leaving him to question whether he did something wrong or whether he is simply not good enough. Women are often aware that men may be more emotionally invested in these digital interactions, creating a power imbalance where women can control the pace of the relationship. As men become more emotionally invested, women may withdraw or give minimal responses, knowing that the man will continue to pursue her for fear of losing the connection. The constant need for validation through social media and dating apps can lead to emotional exhaustion. Men begin to prioritize online interactions over genuine, real-life connections, and their self-esteem is dictated by how others, particularly women, view them online. The addictive nature of social media interactions and the instant gratification of dating apps lead men to seek external validation constantly at the expense of building genuine self-worth. The more they rely on others to affirm their worth, the less they trust their own self-pity and abilities. The digital realm is a world of perpetual comparison. Men often compare themselves to others based on the number of likes, messages, or attention they receive. This constant comparison leads to insecurity, as men feel they are falling short compared to others who seem to be more successful in receiving attention from women. Another hidden psychological control is gaslighting. A term that has gained prominence in recent years, is a powerful and insidious form of psychological manipulation that causes the victim to doubt their own perception of reality. In the context of modern relationships, gaslighting is often used to create confusion, insecurity, and self-doubt in men, leading them to question their own emotions and experiences. In a relationship, gaslighting typically occurs when a woman denies or distorts events or actions that have clearly taken place. For example, a man might bring up an issue that he feels needs to be addressed, only for the woman to deny that it ever happened or downplay its significance. She might say things like, "You're overreacting," or "That didn't happen the way you remember it." Over time, these repeated statements erode the man's confidence in his own ability to perceive reality. This manipulation is particularly damaging because it creates a situation where the man feels as though his emotions and responses are invalid. The more this happens, the more he begins to internalize the idea that he is too sensitive, irrational, or emotional. In extreme cases, the man can lose his sense of self, becoming completely dependent on the woman to define his emotional responses and reality. As the man continues to doubt his perceptions and emotions, he may begin to lose trust in his own instincts. This diminishes his confidence in making decisions, asserting boundaries, and engaging in healthy emotional communication. The longer gaslighting continues, the more the man becomes emotionally dependent on the woman for validation. He might even start second-guessing his own memories, making him more susceptible to further manipulation. The constant questioning of reality takes an emotional toll. Men who are gaslit regularly experience anxiety, confusion, and emotional exhaustion as they try to figure out what's real and what's been manipulated. Over time, this emotional turbulence can leave men feeling drained and defeated. Throughout history, gender roles have shaped the way men and women interact with each other in relationships. These roles have been deeply embedded in societal structures, and they still heavily influence modern relationships. Men are often expected to be the strong, stoic figures who provide and protect, while women are traditionally cast as the nurturers, the emotional anchors, and the objects of affection and admiration. These traditional gender roles often put men in a position where they feel they must perform, or sacrifice their own needs to fulfill these expectations. For example, the societal narrative tells men that they must be the protectors, always in control, calm and collected. The strong man is not only a symbol of masculinity, but also a persona that is ingrained in the way men are supposed to behave in relationships. Women are often not expected to share in the burden of emotional labor in the same way, and their emotional needs may be prioritized by men. But this dynamic isn't just one-sided. Women knowingly or unknowingly often manipulate these expectations to their advantage. Many women know that men are socially conditioned to step up as protectors, providers, and caretakers, and this can be leveraged in the context of relationships. Women may unintentionally, or sometimes intentionally, use these ingrained expectations to demand more emotional labor from men, while contributing less in return. This dynamic plays out in everyday life, where men feel pressure to always be the one who handles difficult situations, be it financial issues, emotional crises, or major life challenges. Women, on the other hand, might feel entitled to emotional support without offering the same in return. This often leaves men feeling emotionally drained as they take on the role of the provider, not just financially but emotionally as well. The constant pressure to fulfill the role of protector, both physically and emotionally, can lead to burnout. Men who feel they must always be the strong one can quickly become emotionally exhausted and disconnected from their own feelings. By subscribing to these rigid gender expectations, men may suppress their own desires, emotional needs, and individuality. Their identity becomes so closely tied to fulfilling the role of the protector and provider that they may lose sight of who they are as individuals outside of these expectations. Over the past several decades, we've seen a significant shift in gender dynamics, especially with the rise of feminism and the call for gender equality. While these movements are critical for societal progress, they've also altered the traditional expectations around relationships and the roles of men and women. One of the most prominent effects of this shift has been the rise of the feminine mystique in modern culture. The feminine mystique is an idealized image of women as both powerful and delicate, strong yet nurturing. While this image elevates the feminine experience and demands respect for women's autonomy, it also places unrealistic expectations on men to view women as objects of reverence and emotional care. The idea that women are perfect, fragile, and deserving of constant admiration puts immense pressure on men. Men are often taught that in order to gain a woman's affection or approval, they must cater to her every need, whether it be emotional, financial, or physical. Society praises men for their sacrifices in relationships, encouraging them to be selfless and always prioritize the woman's needs above their own. But what happens when this idealized image of women becomes a tool for manipulation? Men who subscribe to this narrative are often conditioned to suppress their own emotional needs in order to fulfill the expectations placed on them by society and their partners. They believe that they must constantly protect, support, and care for women without asking for the same in return. Over time, this unequal emotional labor creates a toxic dynamic where men feel they are not allowed to express vulnerability or seek support from their partners. Women, either intentionally or unconsciously, can begin to use this elevated status to manipulate men into taking on more than their fair share of emotional and practical labor. They may not even recognize the impact this has on their partner, as they benefit from the societal expectation that men should always be the ones to sacrifice. Men may begin to feel resentful as their emotional needs are neglected while they are expected to serve and care for their partner. However, since men are often socialized not to express vulnerability or ask for emotional support, this resentment may remain unspoken and fester beneath the surface. In relationships where the woman is placed on a pedestal, men often feel as though they are giving more than they are receiving. They may believe that love and affection must be earned through sacrifice, leading them to feel emotionally depleted and unappreciated. The feminist movement has undeniably reshaped society, opening doors for women to achieve equal rights in the workplace, at home, and in public life. However, the rise of gender equality has introduced complexities in modern relationships that often leave men uncertain of their roles, responsibilities, and boundaries. Men are now expected to share in all aspects of the relationship, from domestic duties to emotional labor. While this is a positive step toward equality, it also means that men are often caught between conflicting roles. They are still expected to be the provider, yet now they must also be the equal partner, sharing the emotional, financial, and caregiving burdens equally. This shift, though well-intentioned, creates confusion for men, as they are expected to constantly balance between the roles of protector, provider, and partner, without clear guidance on how to navigate the complex expectations placed on them. In romantic relationships, this confusion can lead to manipulative dynamics. Women may, consciously or unconsciously, exploit the man's confusion to maintain control over the relationship. For example, if a man feels pressured to perform the traditional role of the provider, but is simultaneously expected to be an emotionally available partner, he can become overwhelmed. If the woman then holds him accountable for not meeting emotional needs, while also expecting him to fulfill his provider role, the man can be left feeling conflicted and inadequate. Men who are caught between traditional gender roles and the expectations of modern gender equality often experience an identity crisis. They may feel torn between the desire to live up to the classic protector/provider role and the pressure to contribute equally to the emotional and domestic aspects of the relationship. As men are expected to perform all roles, financial, emotional, and domestic, they may become emotionally neglected. Their personal desires and needs are often overshadowed by the multiple roles they are asked to fulfill. In some cases, women may expect men to be the everything partner, emotionally supportive, financially secure, and physically strong, all while neglecting to reciprocate those same qualities. The ideal man is a concept that has been shaped by societal forces and continues to be reinforced by the media, social expectations, and even personal relationship. Men are often encouraged to embody certain traits: strength, independence, success, and the ability to remain emotionally stoic in the face of adversity. These ideals are rooted in traditional masculinity, where men are expected to never show weakness, never ask for help, and always be the one in control. This constant pressure to live up to the ideal of the perfect man can leave men emotionally isolated and emotionally stunted. They are taught not to express vulnerability, and as a result, many men hide their feelings of sadness, frustration, and loneliness. In relationships, this leads to significant manipulation opportunities. Women may unknowingly exploit these societal pressures, using the man's fear of appearing weak to their advantage. For example, a woman might play on a man's insecurities by implying that his emotional vulnerability or need for support is a weakness, making him more likely to suppress his feelings. She may manipulate his fear of not being enough by using phrases like, "If you really loved me, you'd do this for me," subtly playing on his deep desire to meet the societal expectation of being an emotionally strong and independent provider. The constant pressure to be the ideal man often leads to emotional isolation. Men may feel that they cannot show vulnerability in their relationships for fear of being judged or rejected. As a result, they suppress their emotions and neglect their own emotional health. Women can use this fear of emotional weakness as a tool for manipulation. By creating an environment where emotional expression is seen as a flaw or something that diminishes the man's value, they can control the emotional dynamic of the relationship. Modern relationships, influenced by emotional manipulation, societal pressure, and gender role expectations, take a significant psychological toll on men. While many of these manipulations are subtle, their effects are profound and far-reaching. The consequences are often not immediately visible, but over time they accumulate, leading to serious emotional and mental health issues. One of the primary psychological impacts of emotional manipulation is exhaustion. Men who are trapped in cycles of manipulation, whether through breadcrumbing, gaslighting, or emotional labor, are constantly drained. Their emotional state is on a never-ending roller coaster. One moment they feel wanted and validated, the next they are left questioning their worth and scrambling to regain affection. This unpredictability creates a toxic emotional environment, leading to emotional burnout. Burnout manifests in various ways: a constant feeling of being drained, a lack of motivation, and a sense of emotional depletion. Over time, this exhaustion becomes all-encompassing, affecting not only the relationship but also other areas of a man's life. Men may find themselves withdrawing from friends, family, or activities they once enjoyed, as the emotional weight of their relationship takes precedence over everything else. This emotional exhaustion also leads to numbness. Men may become desensitized to the highs and lows of the relationship as they struggle to maintain any emotional equilibrium. They might stop caring about the manipulation as it has become the baseline of their emotional experience. But this numbness is a sign of deeper issues, as it is a way to protect themselves from the overwhelming emotional fatigue. As the manipulation continues, many men begin to experience increased anxiety and depression. Anxiety arises from the constant uncertainty of the relationship dynamic, never knowing when affection will be withdrawn, when expectations will change, or when the emotional temperature will shift. This anxiety creates a sense of constant vigilance. The man becomes hyper-aware of every action or word, second-guessing his behavior and attempting to anticipate what might trigger a reaction. Depression often follows, as men realize that no matter how much they give, they are never truly satisfied or validated in the relationship. The realization that their emotional needs are continuously ignored or manipulated takes a toll on their mental health. Over time, this can lead to feelings of worthlessness, self-doubt, and even despair. Men might start to feel that they are inadequate, that they are not enough, and that their value is entirely tied to external approval. A particularly damaging consequence of emotional manipulation is the loss of self-identity. Men who are manipulated through their emotions, whether by the need for validation, affection, or approval, often lose sight of who they are outside the relationship. They may come to believe that their worth is directly tied to their ability to meet the needs or expectations of their partner. As a result, they become emotionally enmeshed with the other person, losing their individuality and personal boundaries. This leads to an identity crisis, where men struggle to define themselves outside the role they've been conditioned to play, whether it's the protector, provider, or emotional caretaker. They often forget what they truly want, need, or desire because they are so focused on fulfilling someone else's emotional needs. Over time, this emotional dependence on another person for validation undermines their sense of self-worth. The more emotionally manipulated a man becomes, the more he may retreat from his social circle. Men may become isolated as they feel they can no longer connect with friends or family due to their intense focus on the relationship. The constant emotional turbulence within the relationship often leads to social withdrawal as the man becomes exhausted by the dynamics within his partnership. Social isolation can also be a form of emotional manipulation, as men are encouraged to prioritize the relationship above all else. They may be convinced, either through direct or indirect pressure, that their relationship should come before everything, including friendships and hobbies. This not only diminishes their emotional well-being, but further isolates them, making them more dependent on the relationship and reinforcing the manipulative cycle. Breaking free from the emotional manipulation and reclaiming control over one's life requires self-awareness. Men must first recognize the patterns of manipulation that have been woven into their relationships. Without this realization, it is impossible to understand why certain emotional responses or behaviors have become ingrained in their relationships. Recognizing the patterns of manipulation. The first step in reclaiming control is awareness, recognizing the manipulative tactics that have been at play. Whether it's breadcrumbing, gaslighting, emotional labor, or playing on their desire for validation, understanding how manipulation works is crucial. Once a man becomes aware of these dynamics, he can begin to make informed choices about how to react, rather than continuing to passively participate in the manipulative behavior. Self-awareness can be cultivated through self-reflection. Men can ask themselves critical questions such as, am I constantly feeling emotionally drained or exhausted in this relationship? Do I feel like my needs and desires are being ignored or invalidated? Is my self-worth tied to my partner's approval, attention, or affection? Do I often question my reality or my feelings because of what my partner says or does? Recognizing that these feelings are not normal is the first step toward healing. Setting boundaries. Once a man has gained insight into the manipulation at play, he must set healthy boundaries. Boundaries are a form of self-respect, and they are essential in protecting emotional health. Men who are caught in manipulative dynamics often feel like they must always give, whether emotionally, financially, or physically, without receiving in return. Setting boundaries means recognizing that their needs and emotions are valid, and that they are entitled to respect in the relationship. Refusing to allow the partner to manipulate their emotions or invalidate their feelings. Ensuring that physical touch or affection is consensual and based on mutual respect. Prioritizing personal time for self-care, socializing, and pursuing hobbies or passions rather than being consumed by the relationship. Setting these boundaries is not easy, especially if the man is used to sacrificing his own needs for the sake of the relationship. However, it is a crucial part of taking back control. Men must learn to prioritize their own emotional well-being and self-worth over external validation, especially from a partner. This means understanding that their value is not contingent upon their ability to meet someone else's expectations or perform specific roles within a relationship. Reclaiming self-worth involves learning to value oneself for who they are, independent of what anyone else thinks. Practices for building self-worth might include self-care routines, engaging in activities that foster emotional and physical well-being, whether it's exercise, meditation, or simply taking time for oneself. Pursuing passions, engaging in hobbies, projects, or work that brings a sense of fulfillment and personal achievement outside the context of the relationship. Self-compassion, learning to treat oneself with kindness, recognizing that everyone is deserving of love and respect, starting with self-love. Therapy and support networks. The path to healing is rarely done alone. Therapy can be a powerful tool for men to unpack the emotional baggage accumulated through manipulative relationships. A therapist can help them build self-awareness, set boundaries, and overcome the feelings of inadequacy that may have been instilled over time. Support groups or trusted friends can also provide a sense of community and belonging, reminding men that they are not alone in their journey toward emotional freedom. Finally, men must learn to rebuild trust, both in themselves and in their ability to form healthy, balanced relationships. This doesn't mean giving up on love or relationships entirely, but rather learning to engage in relationships where respect, honesty, and mutual care are foundational. Healthy relationships are built on communication, trust, and equality, not manipulation and control. Empowerment comes from within. It's about realizing that you as a man deserve respect, love, and care that is genuine and reciprocal. By taking back control of your emotional health, understanding your worth, and setting boundaries, you reclaim your power not just within relationships, but in all areas of your life. Empowerment means learning to love yourself first, before seeking validation from anyone else. It means recognizing that you are worthy of emotional balance, stability, and fulfillment, regardless of external opinions. Ultimately, self-awareness, boundary setting, and self-love are the cornerstones of breaking free from manipulation and creating healthy, fulfilling relationships. When men embrace these principles, they stop being passive participants in unhealthy dynamics. Instead, they become active creators of their own emotional lives, free from the manipulation, emotional exhaustion, and uncertainty that once held them captive. As we've seen throughout this video, modern relationships are far more complex than they appear on the surface. Manipulation, whether it's emotional, psychological, or social, affects us in ways we don't always see coming. Men in particular are often caught in a cycle where their emotions, self-worth, and identities are tied to the expectations of others, whether it's through seeking validation from a partner, fulfilling societal roles, or responding to gendered expectations. But here's the truth. You don't have to remain trapped in this cycle. Breaking free starts with understanding the manipulation, recognizing the patterns that have kept you emotionally bound, and most importantly, realizing that you are worthy of a relationship based on mutual respect, love, and care. You are not here to serve someone else's emotional needs at the expense of your own. Your value is not determined by how much you give or how well you meet someone else's expectations. It is intrinsic, unshakable, and rooted in who you are as a person. The first step to reclaiming your power is self-awareness, seeing clearly how manipulation operates in your relationships and taking ownership of your emotional well-being. It's about setting boundaries, acknowledging your own needs, and no longer sacrificing your happiness for the sake of others. It's about building self-worth through self-compassion and recognizing that you are more than just a provider or protector in a relationship. You are a whole, valuable individual who deserves to be seen and heard. This journey won't be easy. There will be challenges, but it's one that leads to profound emotional freedom and healthier, more fulfilling relationships. By choosing to rise above the manipulation, you are no longer a passive participant in your own life. You take back control. So I ask you this: what are you willing to do to take back your power? It starts with a decision to no longer accept the emotional roller coaster of manipulation. A decision to prioritize yourself, your needs, and your well-being. A decision to stop measuring your worth by the approval of others and to embrace your own value. The power is within you. You are worthy of a love that is real, reciprocal, and built on a foundation of respect. It's time to break free from the manipulations of the past and create the life and relationships you truly deserve. Remember this: true empowerment is not about domination or control. It's about standing in your own truth and creating a space where both you and your partner can grow, thrive, and be authentic together. Take the first step today, because your emotional freedom starts with you. If this video resonated with you, if you recognized patterns in your own life or relationship, then it's time to take action. Don't wait for the manipulation to stop on its own. You have the power to make the changes you need. Here's what you can do today to start reclaiming your power. Reflect. Take some time to sit with the ideas we've discussed. Ask yourself, what patterns have I noticed in my own relationships? How have I been manipulated, and how can I break free? Set boundaries. Start practicing setting healthy boundaries. Whether it's in your personal or romantic relationships, learn to say no when something feels wrong. You don't have to justify your feelings. Your needs are valid. Invest in yourself. Your self-worth is not based on the validation of others. Take time each day to focus on self-care, self-compassion, and building your emotional resilience. Reclaim your own identity outside of any relationship. Seek support. If you're struggling to break free from manipulative cycles, consider reaching out to a therapist or support group. You don't have to go through this alone. There are people ready to help you heal and grow. Share your story. This is a powerful conversation, and I want to hear from you. In the comments, share your experiences or any insights you've gained. You never know who you might inspire by sharing your journey. And if you found this video helpful, like, share, and subscribe for more content that supports your growth and empowerment. Remember, you are the author of your own life. You have the ability to shape your relationships and emotional future. Take that first step, because your journey to emotional freedom starts now.